The Blessed One said, I see no victor amongst you. If you abide in a wrong way, how are you to be victors? You naked ones, listen as I express something to benefit you. To a childish mind, there is nothing pleasant. How are you to be victors? Therefore, with a Buddha's eye, I will teach also the profound path. Then those naked ascetics became angry at the Blessed One and generated a mind of disbelief. At that time, at the moment, Indra, the lord of the Devas, wielded his thunderbolts. At that, those 18 million naked ascetics were overcome with fear and stricken with great suffering. They wept, and their tears began to flow. The Blessed One also made his body disappear, and at that, the naked ascetics sobbed, and their faces filled with tears. Not seeing the Blessed One, they spoke these verses. There is no friend to defend us here, likewise no father and no mother. What we see is like a wilderness, no vacant house or place to stay. Nor is there even water here. There are no trees, nor any birds. Here, no living beings are seen. With no protector, we feel suffering. Since we do not see the Tathagata, what we experience is greatly unbearable. Then at that time too, the 18 million naked ascetics arose and knelt with both feet on the ground. They raised their voices and sang out, Tathagata, endowed with compassion, complete Buddha, supreme among humans, please do what will benefit us, be the refuge for beings in despair. Then the Blessed One displayed a smile and said to the Bodhisattva Savashura, go and explain the Dharma to the heretical naked ascetics from other traditions. He spoke thus, and the Bodhisattva, the great being Savashura, said to the Blessed One, Blessed One, if the Black Mountain demolishes its boulders, prostrating with its peak to Mount Sumeru, the king of mountains, how am I to teach the Dharma while the Tathagata is present? The Blessed One said, be quiet, child of the lineage. The skillful means of the Buddhas are many. So go, Savashura, look among the world systems in the 10 directions and see where Tathagatas are appearing and where there are seats set up. Savashura, I myself will teach the Dharma to the heretical naked ascetics from other traditions. The Bodhisattva Savashura said, Blessed One, by whose supernatural power shall I go? By means of my own supernatural power, or rather by the supernatural power of the Tathagata? The Blessed One said, Savashura, go by the blessing of the strength of your own supernatural power. Savashura, come back by the Tathagata's supernatural power. Then the Bodhisattva Savashura arose, circumambulated the Blessed One, and disappeared on that very spot. Then the Blessed One taught the Dharma to those heretics from other traditions. Friends, birth is suffering. Birth itself is also suffering. Once one is born, there arise many fears of suffering. From birth, fears of sickness arise. From sickness, fears of aging arise. From aging, fears of death arise. Blessed One, what is it to say that from birth, fear of being born will be born? From being born as a human, many fears arise. Fear of the king arises. Fear of thieves arises. Fear of fire arises. Fear of poison arises. Fear of water arises. Fear of wind arises. Fear of whirlpools arises. Fear of the actions one has done arises. The Blessed One taught the Dharma in many forms, such as this topic of birth, and at that moment, the heretical naked ascetics from other traditions were utterly terrified and said, from now on, we will never again aspire to be born. When the Blessed One explained this Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya, the 18 million heretical naked ascetics from other traditions fully completed the unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. From his own retinue as well, 18,000 bodhisattvas were established on the 10 grounds, and they all emanated supernatural displays as well, such as the form of a horse, the form of an elephant, the form of a tiger, the form of a Garuda, the form of Mount Sumeru, and forms like the pattern of a swastika, and some displayed the form of a tree. They all sat cross-legged on lotus thrones as well. 9,000 million bodhisattvas sat down to the right of the Blessed One. 9,000 million bodhisattvas sat down to the left of the Blessed One. And the Blessed One remained in the meditative equipoise the entire time and appeared to teach the Dharma through skillful means. On the seventh day, the Blessed One stretches out the palm of his hand and knows that the Bodhisattva, the great being Sarvasura, is coming there from the Padmotara world system. When the Bodhisattva, the great being Sarvasura, was going to the Padmotara world system, by the blessing of the strength of his own supernatural powers, he arrived there in 7 days. When the Blessed One stretched out his hand, at the time the Bodhisattva Sarvasura was in the presence of the Blessed One. After circumambulating the Blessed One 3 times, his mind it became inspired with pure faith in the Blessed One. He placed his palms together, bowed down to the Blessed One, and said this to the Blessed One: Blessed One, when I went to all the world systems of the 10 directions, Blessed One, by one of my supernatural powers, I saw 99,000 million Buddha views, and by 2 supernatural powers, I saw 1,000 million Blessed Ones. On the 7th day, I arrived at the Padmotara world system, and on the way, I also saw hundreds of thousands of millions of unshakable Buddha views. Then, Blessed One, first I saw the supernatural displays of the Buddhas, the Blessed Ones, and I saw Tathagatas teaching the Dharma in 92,000 million Buddha views. And on that very day, in 80,000 million Buddha views, I saw 80,000 million Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas arising in the world. After making prostrations to all those Blessed Ones, I went further. Blessed One, on that very day, I passed 39,000 million Buddha views, and in those 39,000 million Buddha views, there also arose 39,000 million Bodhisattvas. And on that very day, they were completely enlightened in the unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. I circumambulated those Blessed Ones, Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas 3 times, and became invisible by means of supernatural power. Blessed One, in 60 million Buddha views also, I saw Buddhas, Blessed Ones. Blessed One, I made prostrations to the Buddha views and to the Buddhas and continued on straight away. Blessed One, in another 8 million Buddha views, I saw Tathagatas producing the deed of passing into Nirvana. After making prostrations to those Tathagatas as well, I continued on straight away. Moreover, Blessed One, in 95 million Buddha views, I saw the disappearance of the Holy Dharma. And Blessed One, I became distressed and burst into tears. Moreover, I saw Devas, Nagas, the Yakshas, Rakshasas, and many embodied beings of the desire realm weeping, pierced with great agonizing pains. Moreover, similarly, Blessed One, after making prostrations to these Buddha views together with their oceans and their Mount Sumerus, and with their land that were all without exception burnt, I fell into despair and left. Blessed One, up until I came to the Padmotara world system, Blessed One, I saw 500,000 million thrones set up too. 100,000 million thrones were set up in the southern direction. I saw 100,000 million thrones set up in the northern direction, 100,000 million thrones set up in the eastern direction, 100,000 million thrones set up in the western direction, and 100,000 million thrones set up in the upper direction. Also, Blessed One, those thrones that have been set up are made solely from the 7 precious substances. And on all these thrones too, Tathagatas are seated and teach the Dharma. I was amazed at those Blessed Ones, and so I asked those Tathagatas, What is the name of this Buddha world system? And those blessed ones said, Child of the lineage, this world system is called Padmotara. Then, blessed one, after I had circumambulated those Tathagatas, I asked the name of that Buddha fused Tathagata. They said, the one called Tathagata, Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha, Padmagarbha, performs the activities of a Buddha in this Buddha field. Then I asked these of them, since there are many hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas, and since I do not know the Tathagata, Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha, Padmagarbha, which is that one? That Tathagata said, Child of the lineage, I will show you the one called Tathagata, Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha, Padmagarbha. Then the bodies of all those Tathagatas disappeared, and they appeared only in the forms of bodhisattvas. Alone Tathagata was apparent, and I made prostrations with my head at the feet of that Tathagata. And soon as I went there, a throne appeared, and I went to that throne. And blessed one, at that time many thrones appeared, but not seeing anyone on those thrones, I said to that Tathagata, blessed one, I do not see any sentient beings at all on these thrones. And the Tathagata said, sentient beings who have not produced the roots of virtue do not have the power to sit on those thrones. I said, blessed one, after sowing what kind of roots of virtue does one come to be on those thrones? That blessed one said, listen, child of the lineage. Sentient beings who have heard the Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya, by that roots of virtue will sit on these thrones. And there is no need to mention those who have written it out or read it. Sabashura, you have heard the Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya, and therefore you are sitting on the seat. Otherwise, how would you have entered into this Buddha field? That blessed one spoke thus. And I said the following to that blessed one. Blessed one, how much is mass of merits that will be produced by those who hear the Sanghata Sutra Dhammaparayaya? Then the blessed one, the Padmagarbha Tathagata, displayed a smile. I asked that blessed one for what purpose that blessed one displayed a smile. Blessed one, what is the reason for and for what purpose and for what sort of purpose did the Tathagata display a smile? That blessed one said, Child of the lineage, Bodhisattva, great being Savashura, he who has attained great power, listen. It is as follows. To make an analogy, someone is a wheel-turning king ruling 4 continents. If he plants sesame in the fields of the 4 continents, Savashura, what do you think about this? Would many of his seeds grow? Savashura said, Blessed one, many. Sugata, many. The blessed one said, Savashura, from those sesame seeds, a sentient being would make a single pile, and some other person would take each sesame seed from that pile of sesame seeds, one by one, and place it aside. Savashura, what do you think about this? Would that sentient being be able to count those sesame seeds or make an analogy of them? The Bodhisattva of Savashura said, Blessed one, he would not. Sugata, he would not. He would be incapable of counting those sesame seeds or making an analogy. Likewise, Savashura, apart from the Tathagata, no one else can make an analogy for the mass of merits of the Sanghata Sutra Dhammaparayaya. Savashura, it is as follows. To make an analogy, even if as many Tathagatas as there were sesame seeds should all declare the merits of the roots of virtue for hearing the Sanghata Dhammaparayaya, they would not come to the end of that merit, even through an analogy. That being the case, there is no need to mention one who writes it out and reads it and has it written. The Bodhisattva Savashura said, Blessed one, what sort of mass of merit will be produced by the one who writes it out? The Blessed one said, Child of the lineage, listen. Someone cuts up all the grass or wood of a galaxy of 1 billion world systems to the size of a mere finger width. And, Savashura, listen to a second analogy too. If as many stones or cliffs or earth or particles of dust as there are in a galaxy of 1 billion world systems, were to become wheel-turning kings ruling 4 continents, would it be possible for someone to make an analogy of their merits? Savasura said, Blessed One, it would not, except for the Tathagata. Similarly, Savasura, it is impossible to make an analogy for the mass of merits of the one who writes out the Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya either. Compared to the mass of merits of that many wheel-turning kings, one who writes down even just 1 syllable of this Dharmaparyaya and sets it up will produce a much greater mass of merits. Those wheel-turning kings are not like that, although their merits is extremely large. Savasura, likewise, the merits of a bodhisattva, a great being, who remains upholding and practicing the holy Dharma of the Mahayana, cannot be overshadowed by a wheel-turning king. Likewise, an analogy cannot be made for the mass of merits of the one who writes out the Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya. Savasura, this Sanghata Sutra reveals treasuries of merits. It pacifies all that is delusional. It makes the lamp of all dharmas blaze brightly. It defeats all the wicked maras. It makes the abodes of all the bodhisattvas blaze brightly. It brings about the complete accomplishment of all dharmas. He spoke thus, and the bodhisattva, the great being Savasura, said to the Blessed One, Blessed One, here the practice of celibacy is a very difficult practice. If one wonders what the reason for this is, Blessed One, a Tathagata's practice is rare, and likewise the practice of celibacy is also rare. At the time when one engages in the practice of celibacy, one will see the Tathagata directly. Day and night, one will see the Tathagata. At the time one sees the Tathagata directly and looks at the Tathagata day and night, one sees the Buddha field. When one sees the Buddha field, one sees all the treasures. When it is one's time to die, terror will not be born. One will not be born in a mother's womb at all. One will not become sorrowful at all. One will not be bound by the noose of craving. He said this, and the Blessed One spoke thus to the Bodhisattva, the great being Savasura. Savasura, the arising of Tathagatas is rare. He said, Blessed One, it is rare. Sugata, it is difficult to find. The Blessed One said, Savasura, likewise, this Sanghata Sutra Dharmaparyaya is also difficult to find. Savasura, anyone whose ear this Sanghata Dharmaparyaya falls upon will recollect past lives for 80 eons. For 60,000 eons, they will attain wheel-turning kingship. For 8,000 eons, they will attain the position of Indra. For 20,000 eons, they will be born equal in fortune to the devas of the pure abodes. For 38,000 eons, they will become the great Brahma. For 99,000 eons, they will not fall down into wrong realms. For 100,000 eons, they will not be born among pretas. For 28,000 eons, they will not be born among animals. For 13,000 eons, they will not be born in the form of an asura. Their death will not be brought about by weapons. For 25,000 eons, their wisdom will not be distorted. For 7,000 eons, they will exercise wisdom. For 9,000 eons, they will be handsome and lovely. They will be just like the bodies. They will be just like the form bodies accomplished by the Tathagata. For 15,000 eons, they will not be born as a wife. For 16,000 eons, their body will not be stricken with illnesses. For 35,000 eons, they will possess the divine eye. For 19,000 eons, they will not be born in the birthplaces of Nagas. For 60,000 eons, they will not be overcome by anger. For 7,000 eons, they will not be born into an impoverished household. For 80,000 eons, they will be active on 2 continents. Even when they become impoverished, they will obtain this sort of happiness. For 12,000 eons, they will not be born in a birthplace of a blind person. For 13,000 eons, they will not be born in bad migrations. For 11,000 eons, they will be sage, propounding patience. Also, at the time of death, when the final consciousness ceases, they will not have incorrect perceptions. They will not be overcome by anger. In the eastern direction, they will see as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 12 Ganges rivers. In the southern direction, they will see directly 20 million Buddhas. In the western direction, they will see as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 25 Ganges rivers. In the northern direction, they will see directly as many Buddhas, blessed one, as there are grains of sand in 80 Ganges rivers. In the upward directions, they will see directly 90,000 million Buddhas, blessed ones. In the downward directions, they will see directly as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 100 million Ganges rivers. And they will all say to that child of the lineage, "Child of the lineage, you have heard the Sanghata Dharmaparyaya. And therefore, in future lives, there will be these many good qualities, benefits, and happiness. Therefore, do not be afraid." Saying that, they will reassure that person. "O child of the lineage, have you seen many hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of Tathagatas, as many as grains of sand in Ganges rivers?" He says, "Blessed one, I have seen them. Sugata, I have seen them." He speaks, "O child of the lineage, these Tathagatas have arrived to see you." He says, "What sort of virtuous action did I do, that these many Tathagatas have arrived at the place where I am?" He speaks, "Child of the lineage, listen. You obtained a human body. The Sanghata Dharmaparyaya fell upon your ear, and therefore, due to that, you created this great mass of merits." He says, "Blessed one, if even my mass of merit becomes this much, what need is there to mention one who hears it comprehensively in its entirety?" He speaks, be quiet, O child of the lineage. I will describe the merits of a 4-line verse. Therefore, listen. Child of the lineage, it is as follows. To make an analogy, even compared to the mass of merits of as many Tathagatas, Arahats, perfect and complete Buddhas, as there are grains of sand in 13 Ganges rivers, it produces a much greater mass of merit than that. Compared to one who honors as many Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas, as there are grains of sand in 13 Ganges rivers, if even one who hears just a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Dharmaparyaya will produce a much greater mass of merit than that, what need is there to mention someone who hears it comprehensively in its entirety? Child of the lineage, listen to this regarding one who hears the Sanghata Dharmaparyaya comprehensively in its entirety. If there were as many wheel-turning kings as the number of sesame seeds planted in the whole galaxy of 1 billion world systems, and a rich person with much wealth and great possessions made offerings to those wheel-turning kings, compared to that, one who makes offerings to one stream enterer produces a much greater mass of merit. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were to become stream enterers, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one once returner would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were once returners, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merits produced by one who makes offerings to one non-returner would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were non-returners, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offering to one arhat would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were arhats, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offering to one Prachaka Buddha would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were Prachaka Buddhas, compared to the mass of merits of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offering to one Bodhisattva would be much greater. If all of those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were Bodhisattvas, compared to the mass of merits of one who makes offerings to all of them, if the mass of merit produced by one who makes their mind inspired with pure faith in one Tathagata, and makes their mind inspired with trust toward a galaxy of 1 billion world systems completely full of Tathagatas, and one who hears this Sanghata Dharmaparyaya would produce a much greater mass of merit than that. Then, Savasura, what need is there to mention whoever writes out this Sanghata Dharmaparyaya, or memorizes it, or reads it, or who comprehends it completely? Savasura, what need is there even to mention prostrating with a mind inspired with pure faith towards this Sanghata Dhammaparayaya? Savasura, what do you think about this? One might wonder whether all childish ordinary individuals are able to hear this, but even if they hear it, they will not generate faith. Savasura, listen. Is there anyone among childish, ordinary individuals who is able to get to the bottom of the great ocean? He said, Blessed One, there is not. He said, Is there any sentient being who could deplete the ocean with the palm of one hand? He said, Blessed One, there is not. Sugata, there is not. He said, Savasura, just as there is no sentient being at all able to dry up the great ocean, Savasura, nor is any sentient being of lower aspiration able to listen to this Dharmaparyaya. Savasura, those who have not seen as many millions of Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in 80 Ganges rivers, are unable to write out this Sanghata Dharmaparyaya. Those who have not seen as many Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in 90 Ganges rivers are unable to listen to this Dharmaparyaya. Those who have not seen hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of Tathagatas, having heard this Dharmaparyaya, will reject it. Savasura, those who have seen as many as 100 million Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River, when they hear this Dharmaparyaya, will produce a mind inspired with pure faith. They will be delighted. They will understand correctly, exactly as it is. That one will have faith in this Sanghata Dhammaparayaya and will not reject it. Savasura, listen. Those who write out just a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Sutra, after they pass 95,000 million world systems, their Buddha field will become just like the Sukhavati world system. Savasura, the lifespan of those sentient beings will have the capacity to be 84,000 eons. Savasura, listen. As for those bodhisattvas, those great beings who hear as little as a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Dhammaparayaya, Savasura, it is as follows. To make an analogy, a sentient being who has committed the 5 uninterrupted actions, ordered them done, or rejoiced in their doing, will purify the bad karma of the 5 uninterrupted actions. If they too hear just a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Dhammaparayaya, it is like that. Listen, Savasura, and I will explain still another good quality. It is as follows. To make an analogy, a sentient being destroyed stupas, causes a division within the Sangha, causes a bodhisattva to waver from their meditative absorption, creates an obstruction to the wisdom of a Buddha, and takes human's life. Afterwards, that sentient being regrets it and is distressed. By this body, I have been ruined, and ruined in the next life too. I am worthless. Thinking thus, there arises intense contemplation, and he experiences painful feelings. He experiences unbearable feelings. Savasura, that sentient being is rejected by all sentient beings. He is despised. This sentient being is burnt and worthless. He has become worthless with regard to worldly and supramundane phenomena as well. For many eons, these men will be like logs burnt to cinder. These men will be just like pillars and beams in a nicely painted house that are not beautiful once they are burnt. He is not lovely in this world either. Wherever he goes, in all those places, sentient beings will criticize and beat him too. And though afflicted with hunger and thirst, he will not obtain even the slightest bits to eat or drink.